What's good with it, guys? It's your boy UCF Jaguar report with GenJag.com, and in this video I'm going to discuss a topic that I really didn't want to talk about, but since Kaepernick became a free agent, it's been roaming around Jaguar fan group pages about whether or not the Jaguars should consider signing him. You know, I thought this chat would go away after a while or after a team signed Kaepernick, but it's still something that's lingering around, and this whole topic of conversation is really shifting toward Joe Mixon in a lot of ways, because the argument turns out to be, oh, if you want Joe Mixon, then why would you want Kaepernick? And really, these guys carry two different kinds of baggage, so I'm just going to discuss the whole thing in this video and just describe my feelings on the whole thing. So,
let's get it! Now, before I make this video, I just want to let you guys know that this is I really didn't want to touch on this topic just because it's an extremely sensitive topic, as there's a lot of racial, a lot of social, a lot of political stuff that goes into this. So I'm going to try to bring this to you as objectively as I can. So let's start off and talk a little bit about Colin Kaepernick. Now, we all remember last season, during the preseason, he had this big movement where he decided to express his opinion as an American and kneel for the anthem instead of standing up for it. He was doing this as a way to spread social injustice within the United States and try to raise his awareness toward that. Then from here, it just became one of the biggest stories in the United States. I mean, it reached far beyond sports. It reached into, common CNN, NBC News kinds of stations where this was such a huge thing that really went on. And then from there, you saw more athletes participating in this movement as athletes realized how big of a platform they really have when it comes to spreading whatever they kind of believe in. And then since then, a lot of people kind of called out Colin Kaepernick saying, oh, well, if you care this much about your country, then why aren't you, doing any kind of philanthropic work or doing any community service activities? But then he actually did respond to that by donating money to different philanthropies. I don't know what philanthropies they are, but I don't know if he did any kind of community service, but he started donating actually a lot of money toward different types of charities. Now, I respect what he did and everything. There's a couple things I really didn't like about his antics in this whole thing. First of all, he started supporting and saying positive words about Fidel Castro and the way he led Cuba. And then also, during all this, he portrayed himself as almost a civil rights activist and a politician in a lot of ways, as he was saying he was doing an American thing by expressing his opinion and standing up for what he believes in. But I thought he lost a lot of legitimacy when he said that he didn't vote in the previous election, one of the most basic American rights. So I really don't know how stable this guy's head is, even if he's coming off as that he's, totally normal and he's doing everything right and everything that he thinks he should be doing. But with all this stuff comes a lot of news, and also comes with a lot of distraction. If the Jaguars are going to bring in a player like Colin Kaepernick, you've got to have his strengths outweigh all the baggage. Now, if Colin Kaepernick were a high-profile quarterback where we knew if we inserted him, he would create a spark for this team, but I don't think his skill set matches up for that. I think he's been digressing in a lot of ways, and he really peaked when the NFL saw almost a resurgence of a running quarterback, when you saw players like RG3 really having their breakout years, in a sense, when it was his rookie year. But as they started playing Colin Kaepernick more in the pocket, he proved that he didn't have really much of ability to be a stand-in-the-pocket quarterback. But I really don't think he'd be a good fit in Jacksonville, because if you bring him in here, he's going to be basically a backup or fighting with the starting spot, but there would just be so much chaos and so much almost media frenzy going on. I just don't think Tom Coughlin wants a bullseye almost in the back of the team like that. And then to bring us back to August, when this is all occurring, when he was doing this, I really saw two teams that would not have been able to put up with what he was doing. And that was the San Diego Chargers, and that was the Jacksonville Jaguars. Mainly because those two cities have huge military bases, and obviously probably a big part of their fan base is military. Now, the Jacksonville being a small market team and really trying to capture as much of the fan base as they can with these years that they've been regressing, I just don't see that this is a way they'd really want to go. Colin Kaepernick would be a huge PR hit to a city like Jacksonville that's just a small market team that really is trying to keep all the fans they really have in these years of declining play with our football team. I mean, if you go to any Jaguar games, pretty much at every commercial break, they're commemorating some old Navy vet or, someone in the Army Corps, military corps. Just in this sense, I don't want Colin Kaepernick because I just don't think the strengths of him as a football player will outweigh the baggage that he'd bring to our city. So with all that said about Kaepernick, let's go ahead and talk about the running back out of Oklahoma, Joe Mixon, who's going to be entering the NFL draft this year. So Joe Mixon's been a big topic of conversation, and he's almost in a sense rising in a lot of draft boards as people look more and more at his tape. So to get a better perspective of this guy, I decided to dive into some tape myself to see what a lot of people see in him. And I saw him as an absolutely terrific runner, and there's one weakness I see in Leonard Fournette, and that's his patience when it comes to standing back and waiting for an offensive line to develop and waiting for holes to form. But this guy has the patience of a guy like Le'Veon Bell. I mean, this guy, I watched him sit back there, wait for holes to develop, and just pick these holes that you would never even see developing. I mean, this guy's not like Leonard Fournette or Dalvin Cook just because he's not as genetically and physically gifted, but this guy as a runner is an absolute beast. He might even be the best runner in this draft class. Now, what he did was absolutely terrible when it comes to his baggage. Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the anthem is more of a political movement, but what he did when he hit a woman the way he did is absolutely disgusting. And I think everyone can agree that what Joe Mixon did was absolutely wrong, but when we look at this guy, we got to once again go back to the idea of whether or not the baggage outweighs the potential player that you could get out of him. And when I try to answer this question, two main things comes to my mind. The first thing was, what did he do after this happened? How did he respond from this adversity? Did he go out there and show that he really does care about what he did wrong? And did he go out and do different things in the community? What did he do to really respond to the adversity caused by this move that he did? And the second question I ask myself is, how much does this guy like football? Does this guy absolutely love football or not? I only take him if he loves football. I mean, we've seen all-generation players like Greg Hardy was an amazing player, but his baggage was so bad, and he didn't care about the game of football. All he cared about was the paycheck. So he wasn't willing to change his ways for the NFL. And then also you see guys like Justin Blackmon who pop a drug test and everyone's like, okay, maybe he can get better. Then he fails another one. Then it just comes to show out that he's just not a big fan of the sport. But then you see success stories like a guy like the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, where he was no doubt going to be a first-round pick, but he was just so addicted to drugs at the time that no team really wanted to take a flyer on him. But then the Arizona Cardinals picked him in the 5th round, and boy, they've gotten a lot of return out of that investment. The thing about Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, is that he absolutely loved the game of football, and he did whatever he could to get himself to play the game of football. And that meant fighting a hard addiction he had, a really tough addiction he had that made him miss a lot of college football games, just absolutely head on. And he came out of that battle terrific. I mean, his love for the game of football is what made him become a better person. Now, does Joe Mixon love the game of football? I don't know. That's something that Tom Coughlin and those guys will have to decide when they talk to him in different meeting rooms, try to see his demeanor, and just try to get as much information and background information as this guy as you can. But would I get Colin Kaepernick? No, I wouldn't get Colin Kaepernick because I don't think the baggage outweighs his strengths outweigh his baggage. But would I get Joe Mixon? I don't know the answer to that because I don't know the dude personally and I don't know what his attitude is. But I trust Tom Coughlin, Dave Caldwell, and Doug Marrone to do their due diligence on him. and figure out whether or not this guy would be a good culture fit with our team. So with all that said, thanks for watching my video. Like I said at the beginning, I try to be objective as I can with it since it is a touchy subject. So if you liked it, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, UCF Jaguar. Also be sure to check out ginjag.com. And if you didn't like it,
why didn't you like it? Why?
I'm out.